Well, hello, this is Deborah Johnson with the Power of After Show, and today is all about growing through mid-career with grace and grit. And our emphasis is for those who are at mid-career, half-time of life, helping you to move forward in life, no matter where you are, whether you're going to going to a new job, whether you're just looking at your next chapter. I've subtitled this, Why the Willingness to Do Hard Things Still Matters. And grace and grit are two qualities that we desperately need at mid-career and the halftime of life. And grace gives us the perspective and the patience to navigate change without panic, while grit gives us the courage to keep moving forward, even when growth, it just feels so uncomfortable. It's the willingness to do the hard things. And inspired by the classic film True Grit, this episode of The Power of After Show, it explores why some of the most meaningful growth in life happens through challenges and through transitions and the willingness to do those difficult things. And so if you've been asking what's next or you're feeling stretched by change, this conversation will encourage you to keep climbing forward with purpose and resilience. So stay tuned. You've spent years building what matters. Now, with Power of After courses and elite mentorship, it's time to move forward with intention and impact. This is the Power of After Show. Let's get started. The 1969 film True Grit, and it introduced audiences to a rugged story of determination, resilience, and courage. John Wayne's iconic character, Rooster Cogburn, became this memorable character, not because he was polished or comfortable, but because he possessed grit, the willingness to push forward through hardship, discomfort, and uncertainty. And that idea still resonates today, especially for those navigating mid-career or the halftime of life. And at this stage, many professionals, they find themselves facing unexpected transitions and shifting industries, changing technology, financial pressure, family responsibilities, health concerns, and the emotional question that just says, what's next? And some feel stuck between who they were and who they are becoming. And others, they're just quietly wrestling with fear, with fatigue, or the discomfort or of learning something new. And yet growth, it occurs during mid-career, rarely it happening through comfort alone. It often requires grace and grit. And grace gives us the perspective, the patience, and the ability to navigate change really without bitterness or panic. And that's tough. But the grit, it gives us endurance, courage, and the willingness to continue doing those hard things, even when progress, it feels slow or uncomfortable. But the truth is, many of the most meaningful chapters of life, they're built during those seasons that initially, they just feel really difficult. So what are some mid-career crossroads? Mid-career is often a season of reassessment. Earlier decades, they may have focused on survival, career building, raising children, or just simply trying to establish stability. And some may find themselves still in some of those characteristics of that season of life. But eventually, many professionals, they arrive at a crossroads. And so these questions start surfacing. Is this the work I really want to do? Well, how do I remain relevant? Can I adapt to changing technology? What kind of lifestyle do I want now? And am I still growing, or am I just like maintaining the status quo? In this season, it can feel emotionally complex because people are no longer beginners, yet they may suddenly feel like inexperienced again in certain areas. Industries, they evolve. Technology shifts rapidly, especially now, artificial intelligence. It's changing workflows. Businesses models, they're transforming. And also, Some relationships change, especially at this time of life. For many, this creates a tension between experience and uncertainty. The temptation is to resist change because learning new systems, tools, or skills, it just feels so uncomfortable. But growth has always required discomfort. Muscles strengthen through resistance. And with weights, if you do weights, it feels if it feels effortless, which are those very, very light weights, well, it's probably too light unless you do a lot of repetition. So strength and skills they develop through repetition. And when a muscle is fatigued, that's when growth begins. And in the same way, confidence grows through carrying emotional weight and building experience. And the willingness to do hard things, it's often what separates stagnation from reinvention. And that stagnation, it could just be so frustrating. I mean, you just might always feel frustrated. So let's talk about grace, the power of perspective. And grace is often misunderstood as just this weakness or passivity. 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 Is that the right way to say that? And in reality, grace creates emotional steadiness. And at mid-career, grace, it helps people in the following ways. Grace will help to extend patience to themselves, to ourselves during transition and to accept imperfections while we are learning. Oh, we're so hard on ourselves, aren't we? It'll help us to avoid comparison and release this unrealistic expectations on everyone else. I mean, everyone's journey is just different, and sometimes we just enter this uncharted territory in our own lives. What do we do next? It helps us to navigate setbacks with perspective because setbacks will happen, guaranteed. And this is where we need to just evaluate, make changes, and just move on. Many professionals place enormous pressure on themselves because they feel like they should just already know this stuff and they need to know how to do everything, at least by now. But transition, it requires humility, and even highly accomplished individuals sometimes just need to be beginners again, and that can bruise the ego, especially if you're in a leadership position. Well, you're supposed to be the strong one, right? But grace reminds us that learning curves are just normal. Growth takes time, and reinvention, it rarely happens instantly. And this is particularly important in today's rapidly changing environment. Technology continues just accelerating at this unprecedented pace. AI tools, automation systems, digital platforms, and online communication methods. Oh, all of these things are just evolving like daily, hourly. And some respond to these changes with fear or frustration. And others, they choose curiosity and grace. It allows people to remain teachable instead of just defensible and defensive. We recently celebrated Memorial Day, and our country's founders knew they had a choice. Staying under the British autocracy would mean a life of slavery and control under a monarch with heavy taxation. So that what they did was developed courage because that courage was instigated by choosing to fight for freedom, for representation of the people. That's the only way they could be free. And our founders wanted a vote and a say in their government. And briefly reviewing a bit of history, it uncovers some of the extreme hardship that they endured. I encourage you to do this. And this is usually how courage is developed. It's not developed in a sterile, perfect situation, but facing difficulty with something at risk, that develops courage. And this could be for freedom, a health decision, or even a personal family decision. It's never easy, especially at first, but the only way to achieve that freedom, that courage, and that process and progress is to step out and take a risk. So let's talk about grit. Choosing discomfort for growth. Just love that word, grit. Just sounds hard. Grit. It's not about pretending that life is easy. It's the decision to continue moving forward despite discomfort. And at halftime of life, usually over the age of 40 or 45, comes quicker than we think, grit may look different than it did in our younger years. It's often less about just proving ourselves and more about purposeful persistence. And if you have grit in your shoes, like sand, some extra sand, well, you can just feel it rub. It might cause some tenderness and even a blister. It's aggravating. And so that grit, it just means sometimes that aggravation, it means like, you just got to learn a new skill. It might feel awkward. You might have to start over in unfamiliar environments. And this might happen with some downsizing. It might happen when you need to build healthier habits, physically and mentally. You might have that wake up call, going to the doctor. You need to change your lifestyle. Facing difficult conversations. Wow. People are afraid to ask the tough questions. They might be put down. They might not know what to say. And it could also mean improving finances with a realistic budget. When you're looking at your finances, you're thinking, I'm just not making it. I need to cut back. It might mean adapting to new technology with a commitment to learn more. Or taking care of physical health with exercise, sleep, and nutrition, not only from a doctor's report, but you just need to keep healthier. Pursuing meaningful goals, even after setbacks bring discouragement. You might feel like, I can never get ahead. All you need to do is step ahead a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And many people want growth without that discomfort. And unfortunately, those two, they rarely are different and separated. It comes together. The body understands this principle naturally because exercise strengthens muscle through that resistance. And another step is the recovery after injury, which requires uncomfortable therapy. If you've experienced a knee or hip replacement, I know a lot of friends now that are starting to go through some of these. And boy, you know this all too well. It's painful. But enduring all of that exercise right after the therapy, it develops gradually. And it develops that strength. So that endurance develops gradually through repeated effort. And the same is true emotionally, mentally, and professionally. And sometimes the very thing that we are avoiding, we're afraid of, it's the thing most necessary for growth. So what is the courage to learn again? With courage, when the main and greatest challenges at that mid-career time of our life, age 40, 45, 50, is the willingness to learn again. Experience is valuable, but it can also create hidden resistance. Some individuals, they become so attached to their past expertise that they stop expanding their future capabilities. They give up. It's just not worth it. Yet the most adaptable professionals, they maintain that learner's mindset. You can't give up. And it does not mean abandoning accumulated wisdom. It means building upon it. And the good news is that mid-career professionals, they possess tremendous transferable strengths, which are extremely valuable, even as AI grows. And sometimes you get to a certain point and then you stop, and then all of a sudden you've lost your momentum. Don't do that. Keep going. And all of these skills, they include that leadership, communication, strategic thinking, emotional intelligence, problem solving, relationship building, adaptability, and so much more. And don't discount those skills. Those skills are built on your experience. And these strengths, they remain highly valuable even as industries evolve, because technology, they might change tools, but human wisdom still matters deeply. And in fact, as AI and automation expand, uniquely human qualities become even more important and valuable. Empathy, discernment, creativity, storytelling, mentorship, and nuanced communication. That just can't be automated. It means the combination of experience plus teachability becomes extraordinarily powerful. Doing hard things builds confidence. And confidence is not built through just avoiding difficulty, it's built through surviving it. And we can refer back once more to our founding fathers who survived enough to carve out documents that confirmed our freedoms. And one of the greatest misconceptions about confidence is the believing that people feel confident before they take action. And often, confidence comes after that action occurs. It's the courage. You've got to step forward, and then you're developing confidence. And these can so easily be applied to our lives right now. It doesn't matter where you are, what you do, especially entrepreneurs, though. If you're an entrepreneur, you might feel a couple of these things like, oh, this first podcast episodes, it just feels so uncomfortable. What about the first live stream? Oh, it feels so awkward. And maybe you don't like the way you look. Oh my goodness. It's hard for me sometimes to look back at some of my takeaways. It's like, oh, I have a frown on my face. Oh, I'm looking older. The first sales conversation. Well, it might feel intimidating and you're facing just that self-doubt. What about the first technology platform that feels so confusing? The first conversation in a courtroom of law, if you've ever been there in court, it feels frightening. Oh, you're so afraid. What are they going to do to me? What are they going to do to this situation? But repetition changes perception. What once felt difficult, it can gradually become familiar. And that's why doing the hard things, it matters. It matters so much at mid-career. Every new challenge conquered becomes evidence that growth is still possible. I have to tell myself this same exact thing when I'm approaching a new tech challenge, the same thing, or a relationship challenge. People who stop challenging themselves often, they just begin shrinking back emotionally. Oh, it's just not really worth it. Or their world becomes smaller. Oh, the fear, it's starting making those decisions for you. And pretty soon, all of this time passes. But growth expands perspective, energy, and purpose. So, how does grace and grit apply to our relationships? Mid career growth is not only professional, it also deeply affects relationships. And this season often includes aging parents, adult children, marriage transitions, grandchildren, shifting friendships, carrying responsibilities. And I've certainly experienced most of all of these issues at some point. And now I'm watching our kids go through some of the same issues. When you have adult children, you see them now reliving a lot of those same things. And grace becomes essential in relationships because everyone is navigating change. And at the same time, grit is needed to maintain healthy connection. Strong relationships require intentional effort with honest conversations, forgiveness, listening, time investment, and emotional presence. And healthy relationships, boy, those rarely happen just accidentally, especially after being married for a number of years to the same man, over 40 years. Oh, over 45. Well, I know this very, very well. All of those actions are so important in building a relationship. It's not always easy. Those conversations are not always easy. To be able to think of the other person first, not always easy. Meaningful relationships require the willingness to do difficult things consistently. And for me, sometimes it's hard for me to bring up how I'm really feeling. I don't want to be like discounted. And I'm usually not, but sometimes it's scary. Many people, they spend the first half of life focused primarily on achievement, stability, or responsibility. But the halftime of life often awakens just this deeper question about purpose and meaning. And purpose rarely emerges through just endless comfort, but it grows through challenge, leadership, creativity, and reinvention. And purpose is built solidly on core values. I can't emphasize that enough. That should be your core values should be reviewed often. Make sure you get the article coming with this. I will put a link in the show notes to an article on core values. The appendix of my book, Stop Circling, has a wonderful chapter on core values. Spend time with those and build your purpose on what you really want on your core values. And those should be reviewed often. And some of the most meaningful work people ever do happens after they thought their best years were behind them. And this is why mid-career should not be viewed as decline. It's another climb. The wisdom, the perspective, the resilience developed over decades become assets that younger versions of ourselves simply did not possess. There are those that need us to be the adult in the room. They just need us to do that. So don't discount that. Growth still requires movement built on courage. And that courage many times requires us to risk something. It could be our pride, it could be our comfort, or just getting beyond fear. So, boy, I've said so much today, but there's a couple final thoughts that I want to leave you with today of application. That film, True Grit, resonated. I love the time period, by the way. I love John Wayne. Those are just such great movies, classics. But it portrayed the kind of resilience that people admired deeply, the willingness to just keep going despite hardship. And that same principle applies to life at mid-career. Grace helps us remain grounded personally during uncertain times. And that grit, just like that sand in our shoe, it helps us continue climbing, it helps us continue moving when the path feels steep. And together, they create a powerful combination. And at the halftime of life, you don't need to have everything perfectly figured out, but you do need the willingness to continue learning, growing, adapting, and stepping forward, even when it feels uncomfortable. And it might be just a little scary. The hard things may hurt for a while, but often those difficult seasons, if you look back, if you've journaled it all, looking back on those difficult seasons, they become the very experiences that shape our strengths. They deepen our wisdom and they prepare us for our most purposeful next chapter. So don't hesitate any longer. If you're standing at the brink of a decision, of a next chapter, or a decision, you have a choice. Go for it, or just stay stuck for the next month, or the next year, or even the next decade. Well, that's up to you. I just want to encourage you, start now. Don't hesitate. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Make sure you connect with me. You get the article that comes with this. You get our newsletter. The links are in the show notes. You can get there very, very easily. I'm focusing more on online courses right now and mentorship. It's a great time of my life to be able to pour into others. I get questions all the time, and I love that. So make sure you connect with me, set up a short discovery call. We can do that. And I'd love to see you move along in your life. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll look forward to being with you again next time. So, bye-bye for now. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I love bringing you insights to help you maximize your skills, resources, and experience at mid-career and beyond so that you can make your next chapter your most impactful and purposeful yet. I'm Deborah Johnson, and I can't wait to be with you again next time on the Power of After show.